Building your legacy when no one shows you. How have you ever looked at your life and thought, this isn't what I was promised? That moment when you realize the family support, the generational wealth, the roadmap to success that others seem to have inherited just isn't there for you. I recently had the privilege of interviewing Lois Williams, a force of nature whose journey from abandoned to abundant has transformed not just her own life, but the lives of countless others who found themselves starting from scratch. Her story isn't just inspiring, it's revolutionary in how it challenges our assumptions about what's possible when you have to build your foundation stone by stone. Lois has become a beacon of hope for young women across communities, showing that your beginnings don't dictate your endings and that true legacy building often starts in the most unlikely circumstances. What Lois taught me changed my perspective forever. And today I want to share three profound truths that emerge from our conversation, truths that might just change your life too. Here's the first truth: the family you were born into is just the beginning of your story, not the end. When Lois was just 19 years old, she made a decision that would alter the trajectory of her life. With no financial safety net, no parental guidance, and certainly no inheritance waiting in the wings, she stepped into the property market. By 24, she had purchased her first home and completed a full back to brick refurbishment. Let that sink in for a moment. At an age when many of us were still figuring out how to boil pasta without burning down the kitchen, Lois was creating generational wealth from nothing. I didn't have anyone showing me how to do it, she told me, her voice steady but tinged with the weight of those early struggles. Every mistake I made was mine to own. Every victory was mine to celebrate, often alone. But here's what makes her story extraordinary: she wasn't just building a house, she was building a legacy that would redefine what family meant for her children. Growing up without familial love forced Lois to seek stability elsewhere. While others inherited their path, she had to carve hers out of solid rock. And in doing so, she discovered something powerful: that the absence of a blueprint doesn't mean you can't build something magnificent. It just means you get to design it yourself. I remember sitting across from Lois during our interview, watching her eyes light up as she described the moment she handed her children the keys to their first real home. Their faces, she said, held a security I never knew as a child. That's when I realized I wasn't just changing my story, I was rewriting our family's entire narrative. This brings me to the second truth: resilience isn't just something you have, it's something you pass down. When Lois became a mother, she faced the terrifying reality that many of us fear. How do I give my children what I never received? How do I teach them to navigate a world that no one helped me understand? The answer, she discovered, wasn't in protecting them from hardship, it was in showing them how to move through it with dignity and determination. My children have watched me fight for everything we have, she explained. They've seen me fail, get back up, adjust my crown, and try again. That's not a lesson you could teach with words, it's one they absorb through your actions. And absorb it they did. Today, her children approach challenges not with fear, but with a quiet confidence that says, I come from someone who doesn't quit. That's not inheritance in the traditional sense, it's something far more valuable. I'm reminded of research showing that children who witness resilience in their parents develop greater emotional regulation and problem solving skills. They don't just inherit your DNA, they inherit your determination. But let's be honest, this path isn't easy. There were nights when Lois questioned everything, when the weight of being both the foundation and the architect of her family's future felt crushing. There were moments I sat on the floor of that first property, surrounded by renovation debris, wondering if I was crazy to think I could do this, she confessed. But then I'd remember, if not me, then who? If not now, then when? That question, if not me, then who, is one that resonates deeply with another remarkable woman I learned about during my research. A distinguished academic who received recognition at the Global Tech Diva Summit for her groundbreaking work in media leadership. Like Lois, she navigated higher education abroad without the support network many take for granted. With degrees from the University of Ibadan in English and a doctorate from Trinity International University, she faced cultural barriers and the unique challenges that come with being a first generation student. But rather than allowing these obstacles to define her limits, she used them to define her mission. She built professional community ties through media advocacy. She created mentorship programs specifically targeting underrepresented groups in tech and media spaces. In essence, she constructed the very support system she had lacked. When you don't have a chosen family by birth, she once said in an interview, you create a chosen family by purpose. This brings me to the third and perhaps most powerful truth from my conversation with Lois. Every struggle in your story can become someone else's survival guide. When Lois began sharing her journey, not the polished Instagram worthy version, but the messy, tear stained reality, something unexpected happened. Other young Black women started reaching out to her. They saw in her story not just inspiration, but instruction. I never set out to be anyone's role model, Lois told me with a laugh that carried both humility and pride. I was just trying to survive. But then I realized that by documenting my process, I was creating the very roadmap I had desperately needed when I started. Today, Lois actively mentors other women in real estate investment, particularly those from backgrounds similar to hers. She's created resources, workshops, and community spaces where knowledge is shared freely and mistakes are treated as valuable learning opportunities rather than failures. This transformation from someone seeking guidance to someone giving it represents perhaps the most profound form of healing. When you take your wounds and turn them into wisdom for others, you reclaim your narrative in a way that nothing else can accomplish. I see this same pattern in the journey of Lois Wang, a financial advisor in San Francisco, who, despite her different background, embodies similar principles. Without intergenerational wealth or established networks, she entered the finance industry, a field notoriously dependent on connections and inherited client relationships. Rather than seeing this as a disadvantage, she turned it into her unique value proposition. She focused on serving clients who, like her, were navigating financial independence without a family roadmap. She built her practice not through traditional advertising, but through authentic relationship building within communities that have been historically underserved by the financial industry. Financial literacy isn't just about understanding money, she explains to her clients. It's about understanding that your future doesn't have to look like your past. These stories, Lois Williams, the academic leader, Lois Wang, they form a powerful triptych of possibility. Three different women who refuse to let the absence of a template become an excuse for mediocrity. But what does this mean for you? How do you apply these truths to your own life? It starts with a simple but profound shift in perspective. Instead of asking, why wasn't I given what others have? Begin asking, what can I create that no one has shown me? This isn't toxic positivity or blind optimism. It's strategic reframing that acknowledges the unfairness while refusing to be defined by it. Next, identify the specific gaps in your knowledge or support system. Is it financial literacy, emotional intelligence, professional networking? Once you name these gaps, you can begin to fill them intentionally rather than hoping someone else will do it for you. Then look for what I call legacy mentors, people who may not share your background, but who have built something you admire from humble beginnings. Study them, reach out to them. If possible, let their journey inform yours without limiting it. Finally, and perhaps most importantly, document your process, your struggles, your victories, your methods. All of it matters. What feels ordinary to you could be extraordinary to someone walking a few steps behind you on the path. As Lois Williams told me near the end of our interview, the greatest legacy isn't what you leave for people, it's what you leave in them. That's the ultimate power of building from scratch. When you create something from nothing, you develop muscles that inheritance never strengthens. You gain insights that privilege often obscures, and you forge a resilience that becomes not just your salvation, but your gift to generations you may never meet. I stand before you today not just as a speaker, but as a witness to the extraordinary power of deliberate legacy building. What Lois and these other remarkable women have shown us isn't just inspiring, it's revolutionary. They've proven that the absence of a roadmap isn't a sentence to mediocrity, but an invitation to innovation. So today I challenge you to look at the empty spaces in your life, the missing mentors, the absent guidance, the gaps where support should have been, and see them not as voids, but as canvases. These are not the scars of your deprivation, but the sites of your most important creation. Will you accept the responsibility of being first? Will you bear the weight of building what wasn't built for you? Will you transform your hunger for what you didn't receive into nourishment for those who will come after you? Because here's what I know with absolute certainty: history does not belong only to those who inherited its privileges, it belongs equally to those brave enough to write new chapters. Your legacy isn't determined by what you were given, it's determined by what you're bold enough to build. The world doesn't need more people who had it easy. The world needs you with your scars, your struggles, and your singular vision of what could be. Start building today. Someone is waiting for the path you'll create. Thank you.